This summer has brought issues of mental health in sports to the forefront, with elite athletes such as Simone, Biles, and Rodgers speaking out about its importance. To help us better understand this issue, we welcome in Dr. Wendy Borlabi, the Director of Performance and Mental Health for the Chicago Bulls. Wendy, thank you so much for taking a break from your vacation to be with us.
Well, thank you for having me. This is such an important topic. I'm so glad we're able to talk about it today.
Well, Dr. B, as you say that, this is indeed an important topic. And just yesterday, the great Naomi Osaka actually once again had to address what she addressed a few months ago. We were talking about this earlier. The issues of mental health and athletes' mental well-being has never been in the forefront as it is right now. Why do you think that is?
You know, I think the main reason is that we're not afraid to talk about it. And I think it actually has to do with the generation. You know, I think, my generation and older, and maybe even just a little younger, or we didn't want to talk about that we had some problems or something was going on that was affecting our ability to perform or to live or even just to be connected to folks. And so, but I think the younger generations are very open and want and share. You know, they've been sharing what's going on with them. So I think it's allowed now for other people to continue to share and to be open. So I think it's mostly a generational thing in that they've been more open to share what's going on in their lives. They talk about everything. It's all on social media. You know, they put it out there. And so this is just another aspect that we're getting, and it helps to normalize it for everybody else.
Well, Dr. B, as you know, being in the Black community and the brown community in our neighborhoods, it's kind of like almost taboo and looked at negatively. How do we move that conversation from it being negative to something that's positive and more welcomed amongst all of us in our communities?
Absolutely. You know, I think, and it's going to sound like a really simple response, but I think for me, I think it is a simple response. I think it's the fact that talking about it with your students, you talk about it with your kids, you talk about it at church, you talk about it in all the different aspects of your life. So again, it becomes normal. It's not seen as, so-and-so's cousin or uncle has this feeling, has that. It's just a normal aspect. And so I think the more that we talk about it and put it out there, as they say, on the front porch, that everybody can see it, then it's not, you're not looking at it going, oh my gosh, that's out there on the front porch. It's just something that's there and it's part of our everyday lives. So I think the more that we communicate and have open dialogue and open conversation about it, I think that's going to help the brown and Black community, because I agree it is something that's very taboo and you never want to talk about it. But I think we need to show the strength in being able to do that.
Dr. B, you fill a position with the Chicago Bulls that not every single professional organization has. And as you speak, it seems very obvious that every team should indeed have a sports psychologist. Explain to us, why is what happens physically, why is what happens on the field or the court so intricately tied to what's happening in your mind?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously mind and body, we talk about that all the time, right? The mind and body connection. So if you think you want to make a layup or shoot a layup, that's what you're going to tell you think it, and then your body, hopefully goes in accordance to that. And so it's all very connected. And so if you wake up in a bad mood, if you've had a bad fight with your significant other, or if it's you're fighting an illness, or fighting someone else in your family's fighting an illness, you're coming to work, which work is, your sport. You're coming to work with a lot of heaviness in your heart and in your head, and you still need to make that mind-body connection. And so in doing so, sometimes the connection gets lost. Sometimes it gets difficult. It's really heavy. And so sometimes you kind of go on autopilot and you stop telling your body, oh, I need to lift my left leg or my right leg, or I need to follow through, or I need to actually, lift with my legs in order to get this accomplished. You just start to just go on autopilot. So then your performance doesn't happen as smoothly as you like it to, because that connection is lost, because there's so much heavy going on in your mind and in your heart.
So we see athletes, Dr. B, struggling with dealing with the media and trying to even articulate, if you will, what's going on in their head mentally. How can we, as part of the media, sort of bridge that gap and maybe make it a little easier? And some of the thoughts I even had about it was maybe, I remember myself personally having media training, learning that no matter what the question was asked, being prepared to give them the answer that I wanted, that I was most comfortable with. What do you see that we can do maybe to bridge that gap with these athletes now, and as well as the media?
Now, obviously, the media training is very important. I think that helps to make the athlete feel more comfortable with the questions that are going to be asked and be able to explore different ways for them to answer. Again, as you said, just that way you're giving the control. You're giving the answers that you're more comfortable with. I think on the side of the media, I think it's if you're asking, not even just an athlete, but I think if you're asking somebody about their mental health or just things going on in their life, I think we should allow them to give them the space to answer that's comfortable to them, as we're saying, as opposed to letting them answer and then we look for immediate things to pick at or to drive at or to say this is wrong, this looks fishy, this looks just a little bit hinky. But giving them that space to answer and where they're comfortable and knowing that's where they exist and letting that stand for itself.
Dr. B, you have two 10-year-olds. Lisa has two kids. I have two kids. You work a lot with younger children right now. Why is it so important to build that foundation? And what's the actionable advice you can give any parents that are watching?
The first thing I'm going to say is actually helping them develop an identity outside of sport. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you helping your child know or form other things besides playing basketball or playing football. So maybe it's art, it's dancing, maybe it's that they love to read, maybe they love to write. And so that's what Wisdom, my nonprofit, that's what we're about. We're wanting to develop the identity of kids at a very young age. So when that happens, and they continue on in sports, and let's say they're unable to fulfill the dream, right? So we don't want to take away that dream of being, a professional player, but let's say they're unable to fulfill that dream, they have something else to fall back on. And that's something that is inside, it's internal, because now they know that they have this strength that's there, that their only identity is not being a great basketball player, but they also know that they are a really great artist, or they also know that they are really good at writing stories, or they also know they're really good at communicating and helping their friends come together. And maybe there's a job in that for them that still keeps them in sports. So I say for parents of young kids especially, but to help them form an identity outside of playing that sport, it also strengthens their ability to play that sport. I tell people all the time, they think about the Williams sisters. If you remember when they first started, they were criticized, right? When they were making it really big, because they had other interests besides tennis. Mm-hmm. They had other things going on, and they were criticized for having those other interests. But look at them now. They're still playing the game that they love. They didn't burn out, and they have so many other things going on in their life. So their identity is not just being an amazing tennis player. They have other things that fulfill their lives and that give them purpose. And so that helps with the piece that we're talking about that also connects, with the mental health piece. Not that it's going to make everybody better, right? It's not going to cure anybody, but we want to help give some buffers for that. I think developing an identity outside of sport is one of those buffers.
Dr. B, tremendous advice. You're right. Nobody's good if they're single-minded in any way.
So helpful.
Dr. B, thank you so much for taking this time to be with us. Come back and see us in studio soon for more time, please.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.